This is the Internet Court of Truth and Lies. And what it's about is if you see something in the media that you think is the truth or you think it's a lie, and you wonder what other people think, maybe because you think that other people disagree with you and that you don't know why, then you can test it. You can bring your case that it's a truth or a lie to up to 8 jurors, and everybody answers 8 verdict questions that have to do with any kind of truth or lie. They're just standard questions. The questions are never the perfect questions, but they do help control the dialogue between people, staying on topic as to whether or not something's a truth or a lie. Comments on social media where people just sort of like drift away and they're making random statements and so forth and so on. What we do is what's called enforced moderated dialogue. We have some questions that allow people to stay on the topic, which is whether or not something is truth or a lie. Today, I've been doing some trials on a book and some other things that a guy named Andrew Weissmann has been writing. He was a prosecutor, a top prosecutor, who tried some major well-known cases with corporate executives, putting them in jail for essentially lying in different ways. Some he put in jail for perjury, but some were lying to the SEC, for example, the Securities and Exchange Commission. He's written a really good book called Liar's Kingdom, and he has studied lying. He's produced some articles in addition to this book. This trial concerns an article he produced where he was dealing with what happened yesterday and is happening today. This guy Blanche, who's pictured there on the left, is giving testimony to the Senate right now, who's determining whether or not they're going to let him be the Attorney General of the United States. Weissmann wrote a paper about Blanche and about how he dodges questions very well. Weissmann's paper is about how, as a prosecutor, remember both of these guys were prosecutors. Blanche was a prosecutor, but Weissmann was a prosecutor who actually put people like Blanche in jail. He did it by proving that people were withholding information. They weren't telling the whole truth. This paper is a very good paper. It tells you how a prosecutor, if he believes somebody is factual, in other words, will only be factually correct in what he says, but he's not telling you everything. And if he told you everything, you'd see the lie. Okay. For people who don't tell the whole truth, there are people who tell something which is more than nothing but the truth in order to convince you that they're not breaking the law. Then they are breaking a perjury law. There's 10 examples or questions that should be asked of Blanche that would get at what he believes are potential places where Blanche has not told the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So that's what this article is about. I thought that these questions were a very good example of how you question somebody who you think is not telling the whole truth in order to see whether or not they're trying to deceive you about something. So his trick is very simple. It's not complicated. And I've highlighted it here on this page. So each question he asks exposes the lie of omission with the statement of the truth believed to have been omitted. In other words, he asks the guy, is it also true that? And what he's doing is he's asking the guy something that he believes the guy omitted, for which he has evidence that the guy did omit, or he believes he did omit. And the guy's under oath. So the guy has to tell the truth. if you can catch him in an outright factual lie, perjury becomes a real possibility. This little trick is a good trick. It's you ask them to say whether something is factually true or not if the guy's under oath. Blanche has been giving testimony for a day. I did get a chance to listen to a few minutes of the testimony he gave yesterday. People were asking this kind of question to try to get at the whole truth. Blanche was denying any knowledge of something. So they'd say, did X happen? And Blanche would say, I have no knowledge of whether X happened or not. It may be that Blanche has no knowledge of it, or it may be that that's a lie. They were trying to catch him in these things. Several of the people that were questioning Blanche were using this technique. I didn't see any of these 10 questions per se. Somebody here may have seen whether or not one of these 10 questions was asked of Blanche in the last day or so. I do regard this as something to learn, which is if you think somebody's withholding, is lying when they're telling you a factual truth, but you think he's lying because he's not telling you the whole truth, then the suggestion is to ask whether or not something else is also the truth, where you're bringing a fact in which you think is the one that he's withholding. That can give you an indication as to whether he's engaged in deception. So I thought this was a good paper. So the proposition that I'm trying to see what other people think is the truth that there are ways to get the whole truth from a witness under oath, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The main way is the one that I just mentioned. I say this is true. This is exactly what Weissmann is doing. I'll go through my verdicts. I believe this is a nice paper. If you want to see how prosecutors get at the whole truth, this is a great little short paper demonstrating how to do it. I think Weissmann is clearly good at this sort of thing. Is it the truth? I said, yes. It's a wonderful illustration that teaches you how to do it. Is it the whole truth? I said, there are probably many more examples that Weissmann has indicated. He said it was just a few of the questions he would ask. So I said, no, in that sense, it's not the whole truth. Is it nothing but the truth? Each question digs at incomplete information. So if it's nothing but the truth, then the guy, in telling you more, the guy might introduce new lies that are not the ones you're going after, or he might introduce other facts in order to send you down a trail. That's a violation of nothing but the truth. I just want an answer to this question, please. What's the deceit? I believe that my assessment of Weissmann is correct, and I think that this is a really interesting situation where here you've got a serious prosecutor who's telling you how he does what he does. Is the deceit or truth intended? I fully intended the truth, that this was the truth. I believe that this is a great example. What's the motivation behind the truth or lie? I said it was trying to teach the senators looking to confirm Todd Blanche what good questions he needs to answer in order to be completely honest. Blanche is very good at not being completely honest, I think. He's a very sharp guy. This is one prosecutor querying another prosecutor type thing. What's the social acceptability of the lie, of the truth? And I think it's wonderful that Weissmann is telling everybody how a real prosecutor gets at the whole truth and giving you examples. I'm sure this is taught in law school somewhere, but I don't think the general public knows this technique. Maybe they do. I just didn't know it. What label would improve the social acceptability of the truth? I think that this is totally acceptable. This is true. What was the label I said? So what we'll do is go through the jurors and get a 20 to 30 second summary of their verdicts. and see what y'all think about what I think is the truth. I have no idea what y'all are going to say. Juror 1?
That's me. I believe that these are good examples of questions you could ask to try to get to the truth that people are omitting, but I think the politicians are crafty enough to probably get around it anyway.
Yeah,
But
that's what we're
I agree
seeing.
with you.
Yeah, I intentionally ran this trial now because he's actually giving us the testimony now. I planned this. He is doing exactly what you just said, which is he's pretty good at dodging these things. It's interesting to watch him dodge these questions. They are asking this kind of question. Now, it's spotty, but a few of the guys are asking this kind of question of him. And you watch him as he says, nobody ever told me that type thing. And
I have no knowledge of that.
things are unprovable, whether he's lying or not. Juror 2?
That's me, Bob. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it's a good strategy to expose the truth or the lie. And I think you mentioned something that Blanche is good at not telling the full truth. So half a truth is also half a lie, right? So a half truth is half.
Yeah, he's a very smart lawyer. Because he was a prosecutor for 10 years.
Yeah. But
So,
yeah.
Juror 3?
That's me, Bob. I have to say I agree with Teresa on this one because there are some pretty good questions and pretty interesting things to go along with that. But and that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think that this is the kind of thing that I wish they would teach in high school, how to query people like this. I've never seen somebody just lay it out to you. This is how you figure out whether or not somebody's trying to deceive you. But only the stuff they're telling you is factually true, but it's not the whole truth. How do you get at that? It's just neat to see it in one place where it's so clear. Juror 4?
Oh, yeah, that's me. No, I think it's very interesting. You always ask a question to which you know the answer, or at least one of the answers, and chain that to other questions that they're equivocating on. It's a standard prosecutorial practice. But what I'm puzzled by is why don't the Senate committees have trained prosecuting lawyers on them to take over this charge?
So that is occasionally done.
Yeah,
so,
sometimes they do, but it's not standard practice.
Not standard practice. I know there's situations where they actually did say explicitly, I'm not a trained prosecutor. I've got a guy here. I'd like you to answer his question.
Yeah, because that should be introduced really as a standard thing.
I was watching this yesterday, and what's interesting is that some of the senators are asking him these kind of questions, but he was a prosecutor, so he knows how to dodge them. Weissmann, I think, might have been a little bit wrong on his because he was saying he answers it this way, and this is
That's right.
See the C answers this other way, see the C, unless he tells the truth. But he's actually getting away with it. I'm interested to watch him get away with it.
Because you need facts. So someone who says, "Oh, I don't remember," then you've got to say, "You remembered this at some time. It's very close." So how is it you can approach the lie of "I don't remember"?
I know you couldn't read Weissmann's thing, but some of the 10 questions he had where he's querying, that was actually what he was doing, what you just said. Because he was saying, this is something that's identical to that. Why can you remember this and not that?
And not that, exactly. Yeah. So you saw enough to,
Juror 5?
Yes, that would be me. Good day, everyone. So I posted it in the chat, the results of the AI mode search in Google. And the question I searched was Todd Blanche asked if he planned to re-question Ms. Maxwell. And I posted the results in the chat if anyone is curious.
What did they say?
They said that, yes, he was heavily questioned regarding his past interviews with her, but the congressman focused their attention on the outcomes and ethics of his previous question, more than specifically asking if he planned re-question her.
Yeah, so they didn't ask him the right question.
Yeah, so I've been searching for a transcript. I saw one flash by me, but I couldn't.
The problem with the testimony, whatever you want to call it, yesterday and today is that it's long. I haven't seen a transcript either, but I'm sure there will be a transcript.
It would be interesting for a future case to analyze the transcript
Yeah,
and see and identify in one's
exactly
opinion,
what he did.
Identify the dodges,
Yeah.
and then make accusation that a certain dodge is
Sadly, by then it
would
will be too late because he will be the Attorney General.
Won't there be a time lag?
But it'll be
between
interesting. Yeah.
Won't there be enough of a time lag for the media to be interviewing him before?
Once they elect him, once they approve him as Attorney General, he's Attorney General.
What if there's sufficient time lag between the end of this hearing and the vote?
Yeah,
For the media to follow up on that specific dodge.
What I was hoping to get was more intelligent media. They interviewed Weissmann several times, but they never seemed to have read this one thing he wrote. I watched them interviewing Weissmann a little bit in the last 3 days, and they never asked him, what about these 10 questions? That's what they should have done, because that was what was fixing to happen, right? Certainly if I had been in the media, I would have asked Weissmann, what about these 10 questions? How are you going to determine whether or not the congressmen are actually asking these questions?
Hindsight's always 2020. And we can look at the congressman and say they should have said this, should have said this. It would be interesting to analyze the transcripts,
yeah,
and then make a truth court case.
I think the way to do that,
if the congressman had said such and such, would it have revealed the lie?
Several of the congressmen that were questioning him were also ex-prosecutors, like Weissmann was. And so here's what would make that really interesting to me would be you would have literally prosecutors tried to get at lies of omission made by another prosecutor who knows how to dodge these things. Okay, that would be a really interesting thing, because here you've got people who are trained prosecutors. By the way, this guy Blanche was a very successful prosecutor. He was well respected and everything for the 9 or so years he was in the whatever it was, prosecutor's office. And he changed, or appeared to have changed. I think you're exactly right. I swore I wasn't going to do another Weissmann trial, but that's actually a good idea.
All right, next.
Okay, yeah, next. Okay, 6.
Hello.
Hey.
I like to agree with Weissmann's argument that Blanche and others may have hidden important truths through intentional omissions, and his questions highlight how language can be used to make dishonesty seem more acceptable. And like everyone said, it's interesting how he gets away with it.
Yeah. Thanks. Juror 7.
I'm not. I agree with you. Witnesses take an oath to promise they will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. This means they must give honest, complete, and accurate evidence without leaving out important facts or telling lies. Thank you.
Yep. That's actually what they're swearing to. The problem is, for perjury, you can usually get them for a factual lie, but the whole truth problem is hard to prove. So the lie of omission is hard to prove because factually what they're saying is true. But these questions were really designed to put them in a position where they can catch them in a factual truth. Juror 6, this would make an interesting thing to get this transcript. I think you could probably use AI to give you all the pieces where this was tried. And then you see what Grok or something says. You ask it to give no more than 200 words summarizing interesting things there and see what it says, because it could actually go over that. The transcript's going to be hours long. He's testifying today, too. Juror 8.
Yeah, I also agree that it is an interesting way of getting the truth from someone. I too would have liked to have seen the actual questions I didn't see them. But the one thing that was on my mind when I was reading through was like, by Weissmann putting out this information, doesn't that give an advantage to the person who's being questioned, because now they know what to prepare for?
I know he knew that Blanche was a well-respected prosecutor. So I think he knew that he was not telling Blanche anything he didn't already know. He was hoping to get some senators who were going to question Blanche to use some of these questions. But I think that Blanche himself probably knows the same techniques as Weissmann knew. I'm not probably, almost certainly did. The big question was, any of the senators going to actually do this, ask these questions? If I were Weissmann, I would have thought of that immediately, what you just said, and then said, no, he's a prosecutor, he knows about all this stuff. But these other senators, they may not know how to question a witness who's committing lies, essentially. That's good. I was hoping to say no more Weissmann trials. I have some more trials that are on different subjects, but I might do what I just said I might do, which is follow the advice and find this transcript and see whether or not people were actually asking these kind of questions. I know some of them were asking these kind of questions, and I saw him dodging them very effectively, but I think some of them he didn't dodge. He failed at dodging. I think this is something that AI could summarize and tell us if there were some interesting things going on with those questions. By the way, what convinced me that he's going to be the Attorney General is that if the Republicans didn't vote him in, most of them are afraid that the next person that Trump nominates to be Attorney General will be worse than this guy.
Is there anybody else?
Yeah. So he has nominated people who know nothing about the area that they're supposed to be overseeing. At least this guy had been a prosecutor and had been a successful prosecutor. So he is actually a lawyer, being the Attorney General. But Trump is perfectly capable of taking a guy who
parks his car.
Yeah, really. This sounds great. We'll see y'all next week.
Sounds good. See you next week, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.